The horror genre, when it's done right, it is exceptional. It doesn't matter if it's a landmark, big budget horror, it's an indie horror, or it's a streaming surprise. It doesn't matter if it gets a massive theatrical release, or you gotta go searching through every goddamn seemingly discount bin and every corner of any kind of piece of the internet. But when you find a horror movie that you absolutely love, that you are enthralled by, then you are gonna praise it to the fucking heavens. And that is what I'm here to do, because the first half of the decade has ups, it's had its downs, but I'm here to talk about the films that took it all the way to higher and higher heights, and let's just see what exactly was the best of the first 5 years of this particular tumultuous decade. I'm Sean Ritham with the 25 best horror movies of the decade so far, with some honorable mentions. Let me know your honorable mentions. Let me know your favorite horror movies of the decade in the comments, please. I want to say right at the beginning, one, that all these movies were reviewed in full on the Real Honest Movie Reviews playlist. And two, I don't know if you're going to get a full decade list, guys, because that's in another 5 years. I'm in my mid-40s, and I don't know if I'm going to be doing this in 5 more years. But that being said, let's crack on and talk about this with the honorable mentions like Saint Maud. Morford Clark absolutely nailed it here. And this is just a great fucking offering. It's from A24, so of course I fucking own. In fact, I need to go get more A24 Blu-rays. Probably just order them on Amazon, since no other places seemingly carry Blu-rays that much anymore. But nevertheless, Morford Clark, tremendous. It's short, it's sweet, it's alarmingly alluring, I guess is the best way I can describe it. But Saint Maud, 100% deserving of your time. So, some of these also might surprise you, at least some of the ones once we get to top 25. So, Spontaneous, comedy horror, but man, it hit some emotional punches and had a really, really good thing about people just exploding suddenly. Hence the title, Spontaneous, for those of you that don't own a dictionary or don't understand words. And Beau is Afraid. Okay, you could argue that among all the movies, this probably isn't a horror movie. I disagree. It's a little bit horrifying they went 3 fucking hours on this thing. I think they could have easily cut 30 minutes. But Joaquin Phoenix, making me actually appreciate Parker Posey and not be annoyed the fuck by her. Even though I've heard she's actually nice. I mean, her acting, for whatever reason, doesn't usually click, that is. But this ends up being, to me, one of A24's best offerings. Also one of their biggest flops, because they spent a lot of money. It didn't recoup it, but incredible sets, incredible designs. Joaquin Phoenix being great, but just this over-relying, not even over-relying, just overlying feeling of, holy goddamn shit, this is fucked up. Ari Aster must have had a really, really disturbing childhood and adulthood. In fact, he must just be disturbed all the time, hence the Hereditary shirt back there, one of 2 that I own. But, that being said, let's continue the A24 stuff with Lamb. Well, this certainly was fucked up, the most fucked up goddamn family you'll see this side of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And not for everybody, psychological horror more than anything, but yeah, again, that feeling of just something hanging over your head that is not going to fucking leave, and Lamb captures that perfectly. It's well performed, and it's very, very disturbing. It takes time to get going, and I don't know if it accomplished everything it needed to, but it certainly is worth your time. Infinity Pool, Mia Goth, and a bunch of Cronenberg weirdness. I mean, really, a bunch of Cronenberg weirdness. I don't know if I needed to see so many fluids in this, but again, Mia Goth, we are going to hear from Mia Goth. We're going to hear about Mia Goth, rather, on this. I don't do interviews, and I'm not big enough to do that shit. But you're going to hear more about Mia Goth on this particular list. But yeah, it is really, really fucking memorable, crazy, wild, very strange characters. A lot to say about rich people getting away with shit. In the good way. Not like Crimes of the Future that had absolutely nothing to fucking say. And was from the elder Cronenberg. The elder Cronenberg that probably should be under the same surgical procedures that movie was. Nevertheless, Color Out of Space. Nicolas Cage has most batshit, H.P. Lovecraftian stuff without the massive racism. And just a great Shudder original that is incredibly visual. Incredibly well done. And yeah, it has some weird body horror stuff once it kicks in. Also, Love Lies Bleeding, I know isn't technically a horror movie, but I just want to shout that right here. That might be mentioned on my upcoming best movies of 2024 list and best movies of the decade so far list. We will see. Swallow. Interesting choice here. Seemingly happy lady in a relationship starts swallowing things. Hence the title. I forget what the condition is, or like what it's called, but really good and certainly horrifying about the human psyche. So it's certainly something that, everybody's going to remember, for better or worse. Only thing I can't remember is the young lady's name that did the performance. Nevertheless, crack on with the top 25. So, Antlers. It's a Wendigo that is haunting people and hunting people somewhere in Oregon. I mean, if you're going to go anywhere, go to like Seaside type Oregon and just do that because nobody really gives a fuck about Seaside, Oregon. I'm sorry, but look, I live in the Pacific Northwest and nobody gives a fuck about half the cities here. But Antlers is pretty goddamn good. I was able to stand Carrie Russell in a role that isn't Felicity, and I don't know how I ever watched that show. But yeah, she was good. Even the kid was good. And also, just some really good, makeup effects and some really good special effects. And yeah, okay, it's a bit of a slow burn. Okay, it's a very slow burn until things really get going. And I don't know if we're going to get a sequel that was implied, with the events that led up to the end of that movie. But I liked Antlers. I thought Antlers was quite goddamn fun. So now we go to the Night House. Rebecca Hall with a tour de force performance, having to basically just rely on her facial expressions. I run a clean show here, even if Rebecca Hall is an incredibly attractive woman. That being said, does some great stuff here with missing her husband, but also maybe the feeling that a presence is certainly in her house. The Night House, as it were. And it is mostly a one-location shoot with like a couple like things that are introduced a little bit later on. Those are kind of obvious where it's going, but that being said, Rebecca Hall's performance and the fact that it has so much good stuff to say, by not saying anything, I think it pulls it off quite well. So, I've got the power! The power! 1970s British, early 1970s British conflict with labor workers and stuff like that as the backdrop for this nurse working at a hospital that is not in that good a shape, especially because there is somebody really, really naughty running the whole goddamn thing. And it's one of the best Shudder originals, honestly, of the decade. It is haunting, it is scary, and if you have been the victim of any kind of SA, you are probably going to be triggered by some of this. It is not necessarily what they show, even though they show enough. It is about what they don't show, what they imply, and what is implied on the main actress's face, and even the others that suffered this stuff, and it's good. Maybe it rushes its ending a little bit too much. It does take a long time to actually build, but it builds it so well that you're not necessarily going to hear. The power is quite goddamn good. The Cleansing Hour at number 22. I did not expect to like this. I ended up really liking it. I remember actually being surprised that the director of this film at least praised the fact that I reviewed it. I'm glad you did. Name escapes me. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's very nice of him. It's one of the first examples of that happening. For some reason, despite me just running a small channel, I will occasionally get that from either writers, actors on here, or even on, the social medias that I have. But the Cleansing Hour takes exorcism, gives it a new spin, a new sit and spin, as it were. And after an opening that you might think, okay, this could end up being a typical movie. No, it actually realizes it has smarts, it has some, something good to say, and also some good gore effects once they finally kick things into gear. And not that it necessarily takes that long. I think the movie's only 90 to 95 minutes. It works well and ends up actually building and building and building its story and having a pretty good payoff. Bit of a weird payoff, but then again, when you're dealing with demonic possession and demons and all kinds of stuff from the underworld. No, not Kate Beckinsale in a leather catsuit, more in the pity. You are going to have some strange stuff go on. Number 21, Terrifier 3. Okay, so I said in my 25 worst movies of the decade, or worst horror movies of the decade so far list, Terrifier 2 was up there on that because I thought that was mean-spirited. And even though I like Lauren Levera and I thought there were elements that were all right, the punishing length, the fact that it just didn't earn any of its gore, any of its scare, any of it nothing. It just, to me, seemed like exploitation for the wrong reason and the wrong reasons. This hit every note that it needed to. This is exactly, to me, what Terrifier 2 should have been. This is exactly, Terrifier 1 was so low budget, I don't think they could have done something like this. This had about $2 to $2.5 million behind it. Maybe a little bit more. I'm not necessarily certain. It made that money back just in the opening weekend. It smashed its goddamn budget, marketing and everything. It ended up succeeding wildly beyond my expectations, because I went and watched this essentially thinking, okay, it can't be any worse than number 2, but it's probably not going to be all that great. To my surprise, and you can check out my full review of it, I was very, very stunned by, from the opening with Art greeting people for Christmas, coming down their chimney and slashing away, and Lauren Rivera looking amazing, my word, and the fact that it balanced comedy and horror and actually earned it. And plus, Chris Jericho died. Not in real life, unfortunately. We are not that lucky. But it earned its scares. It earned its laughs. It was more comedy horror, really, than anything else, because I was laughing. I was having a great time. Could be due to the fact I was with an engaged audience. But I actually ended up having a really good time. About 40 minutes in, I'm like, am I enjoying this? Is this actually good? Why in the world wasn't Terrifier 2 like this? What happened? Nevertheless, Terrifier 3 gets on the list. Number 20, It Lives Inside. Spin on demonic possession and, going to bed with dark thoughts and dark thoughts haunting you and all that. And 2 up-and-coming India. I think it was like the central deal. Two actresses, I think they could do pretty well. I actually thought they were twins at first. And just great lighting. Yeah, the ending's kind of conventional. And again, one could maybe argue that this shouldn't be on the list. But what do you want? There have been some lean years in horror, even though I praise the fact that there have been so many great horror offerings. It Lives Inside, despite any flaws that it has, which are a couple, ends up earning it thanks to the performances, the lighting, the mood, and some few genuinely chilling moments. So now we basically crack on with number 19. We go to Scream 5. I liked it. Fuck you. I admit fully, by the way, this movie has problems. It really is one of those requels, or whatever the fuck term you want to go with, where it has its problems. It does. But Mikey Madsen was in it, and you bring back Neve Campbell, who refuses to age. She's also going to be back for Scream 7 after Spyglass kind of screwed over for Scream 6, and that's a whole convoluted thing for a whole nother video. But Scream 5, to me, was as successful as Scream 4 as far as trying to move the story forward. I would argue Scream 4 is a better movie, but Scream 5, to me, doing what it did as far as killing off one of the legacy characters, for those that haven't seen it. And for Melissa Barrera is a tremendous actress. I didn't kind of like what they did with her character in regards to her ties to one of the characters from the first movie. But I really did end up enjoying it because I thought that it balanced the Scream motif and then carried the story at least far enough forward. In addition to the fact that this is not Scream 6, which could have worked, should have worked, and didn't fucking work, and was a goddamn misfire. But I like Scream 5. So I'm putting it here. Now, I'm putting it lower on the list, though, because I wasn't going to go that insane. Now we go to number 18, The Black Phone. Really good performances by the kids, and shockingly great offering from, I think Blumhouse was involved in this. And I didn't expect that, because they're not usually involved in great stuff. But The Black Phone was great. It was great for Ethan Hawke to basically just be an insane killer that really was half as smart as he actually thought he was, because he picked on the wrong kid. And I don't know how they're going to do a sequel, by the way. Are we going to go with a prequel? Are we going to go with another killer? What are we going to do? I don't know. The Black Phone 2, though, quite good. Quite surprising, considering what I thought it was going to be from the trailer. So we go to number 17, Brooklyn 4-5. A bunch of World War II people gather, and they gather at a house for a meeting, a seance where a guy can contact his dead wife, and then, oh boy, messed up shit happens there. A tremendous Shudder original with great acting, and really it's only in one location. And by one location, I literally mean one fucking room. Like, after everybody arrives, after there's some exterior shots, and there's some shots of people arriving, it's really just them in that one room. And it's earned. It earns its scares, it earns its chills, and it earns the fact you get invested in these characters with a good cast. And I believe the writer-director actually had a grandfather that was in World War II that gave him inspiration for this. And he kind of used some, details from, his stories and his experiences and stuff like that to carry this movie on, which I thought was very nice. And I thought it was a nice way to honor his grandfather's legacy. I think grandfather could have been great. I think grandfather. Nevertheless, really good stuff and tremendous work by the director and all involved. Now, number 16, Smile. I did not think I was going to like this. I will say that until the end of time because I saw the trailer, it looked goofy, and then the opening was like, okay, we're going that route. We're actually putting effort into this. And no, it's The Grudge, it's The Ring, it's all that stuff, with a ghost following for like 7 days. But this is the most successful of them. I would argue this is right up there with The Ring 2002, just without Naomi Watts. Because any movie could be improved by having the incredibly ageless Naomi Watts in it. But nevertheless, Susie Bacon, I believe, or Bacon, or however you say it, she was good. She was very, very good. Kyle Gallner was very good. And then it carried right over into Smile 2, which was certainly a choice. I wanted to like Smile 2 more than I did, but I love Smile 1. Also, I can't hear Lollipop by the Chordettes the same way again. You've seen the movie, you know why. So we go to number 15. We go to The Innocents. It's Norwegian. There are kids that gain strange powers. There's one really creepy kid that uses his powers for bad. Could have done without the animal violence. Yeah, that's a warning right there for you, but I don't know if it's still on Shudder because I haven't watched it for a bit. But I remember clicking on it and thinking, okay, it deals with the fact that these kids get powers and they're not sure, excuse me, how they're going to fucking deal with it. And then one gets drunk with power. One needs to realize their power. And then it just ends up really working well. And it's subtle in its, presentation while kicking it into gear, like kicking it like, it doesn't just automatically go like from 0 to 60. It takes its time building with great characters and some really good performances by these kids. I mean, fucking tremendous, especially the one playing, all weird names that I could not pronounce. But the one that plays the one that turns out to be de facto villain is actually really good. So I like to see what else, if these kids want to pursue acting, I think they could do some good stuff, whether it's in Norway, where they come to American projects. I think it could be pretty good. I think they could have some, good potential to grow their careers. But I thought they did well, and I thought it was a nice build of horror, so that's why I'm shouting out here at number 15. So, Husara the Bone Woman, or Husara. It's about pregnancy and how women basically cannot deal with the stress and because they're changing bodies and stuff like that. But they have to because they have another living person growing inside them, and how some women feel neglected and how some women feel like, the changes are affecting them in totally different ways because I assume, because I like the anatomy for that. Don't know if that's really shocking, but I know people that have, I know plenty of girls that have had kids, some that have had one, some that have had multiple, some that have had way too many to the point where I'm just like, stop becoming a baby factory to both parents. But nevertheless, you basically see that a lot of people handle things differently. A lot of people will handle pregnancy differently, and I think that the way this one does, and no, it's not perfect. There are some obtuse, references and maybe some things that are a little bit too out there. I think culturally might have played better in its country. So it was from Mexico, or at least the environs. But it ends up working with its visceral imagery and its atmosphere and a tremendous performance by the lead actress. I mean, even the rest of the people play well, but the lead actress here, and again, I mean, I'm sorry if the names escape me, guys. I've watched a lot of fucking movies. You can Google this shit and figure it out. But she does great as lead actress. So then we get to a movie that I'm going to use for a visual demonstration. X. See, I told you we were going to get back to Mia Goth. And we even go Jenna Ortega. Honestly, this is really... Brittany Snow's in this and acts like a ditz, so, I mean, at least there was that. But yeah, X. Really, really good shit. Visceral throwback to 1970s exploitation horror. We see a couple old people that aren't happy that they're there doing smut films and doing stuff, and then it brings us to the character of Pearl, also played by Mia Goth in tremendous makeup. Don't worry, we will get to Pearl here in a bit. But X is just a nice, great throwback to that time in horror with some great deaths and some great stuff. And I really liked X. I don't know about the old people fucking. I don't know if I really could have, withstood, like, seeing much more of that. But, I mean, it makes sense given the context of, what we see in Pearl and also what they build here. So that was nice. And then we get to Evil Dead Rise at number 12. So, Evil Dead Rise is tremendous. Just eclipses the 2013 version. And yeah, it treats the horror as, like, familiar, but also being in a high-rise apartment gets pretty goddamn scary and eerie and goopy and gory. And really does work just as a tremendous horror movie. And yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't rely on like a lot of the tropes, and I'm not saying that it isn't familiar to a lot of people. But for me, personally, the best, if not the best title reveal, like in a horror movie in a long time. You got that girl floating, and then it just comes up over the fucking horizon. I get goosebumps fucking thinking about it. And I didn't think that this was going to be very good. And I actually watched Beau is Afraid at a theater a little bit far south of me early enough so I could then come back and then I could watch Evil Dead Rise in town. And yeah, it was a long, long day. That's a 3-hour movie with Beau is Afraid, and this is about hour and 45 minutes, something like that, and with trailers. So I was in the cinema for quite a while. And it was worth it because Evil Dead Rise ended up becoming one of my favorite horror movies and one of my favorite movies of 2023. And absolutely deserves a shout right here. So let's get to number 11, Barbarian. Introduced me to Georgina Campbell. I will be forever fucking grateful for that because me, oh my goddamn goodness, what a beauty. And what a tremendous actress as well. In fact, strike that, reverse it. Great actress, but also an incredible beauty. Bill Skarsgård was great in this, and yeah, you really need to prove the old adage of checking and rechecking and rechecking your goddamn thing about Airbnb. I don't think that's an old adage, but I'm just going to make one right now. But yeah, the Airbnb seemed like a great idea, except it's not in a very good neighborhood, and oh yeah, there's a lot of weird shit going on just beneath the surface. If you have not seen Barbarian, that is the closest I'm going to get to actually spoiling something, but not everything is what it seems to be. And yeah, Barbarian, absolutely great. Takes a hard turn about halfway through. Justin Long was also great in this. Glad he's getting more roles. Justin Long seems like a nice guy. But nevertheless, he plays a good creep, I'll say that much. But yeah, Barbarian, really, really fucking good. So now, number 10, Exuma. South Korean horror movie that does a lot of twists and turns, mixes a few elements of horror, some history, and great body horror. And is a long movie. I think it's nearly 2.5 fucking hours, but it is absolutely worth it. A great cast. You think it's just going to be about digging up a body, and it's going to have adverse effects, and then you find out that there is so much more horror that they find that is going to end up possibly swallowing them whole. And it's just so great to see like a well-balanced yet frenetic horror movie where it doesn't let up once it gets going. I'm going to talk about another one of those here in a bit. But Exuma is so fucking good. And I mean it, really, really fucking good. With a great cast, with some great shots, with some great special effects, some great body horror, and a pretty damn good third act. It really doesn't let up once it gets going. Number 9, Infested. French spider movie that is what Sting should have been. And I'm not talking about the wrestler. because Sting is retired. Thank God Tony Khan was able to not get him to continue going because Sting was basically a pile of bones. That's a deep cut for wrestling fans. Infested, and your kid's ears are nested. Testing, attention please. Infested is something that will please a lot of horror movie fans. This and Mads was a really good year, like, a really good 1-2 punch of French horror. But I'll give it to Infested because I just really was surprised by how great it was and how invested and infested I was. I'm so not sorry because I have to make some puns. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very good. The body horror effects were nice. Bit of a, commentary about, the French maybe not helping out people as much and some of the downtrodden feeling pissed off. But, man, those spiders, when those spiders kicked it in, I was like, this is what Sting should have been. Because Sting could be a comedy horror with at least some fun, but this was fun and also, shit, kind of goddamn chilling. Yeah, okay, maybe the ending's a bit of a cop-out to some, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fuck out of it. And now we get to number 7. No, number 8. Nope. Yeah, okay. Does this qualify as horror? Yeah, it fucking does. So fuck you. No, I'm kidding. Nope is really, really fucking tremendous. So, absolutely loved it. It was my favorite movie of 2022. That and Everything Everywhere All at Once. But this is about horror movies, even though Everything Everywhere All at Once has some horrifying imagery about it. That was just the hot dog fingers. Let's get back to Nope. Keke Palmer was so fucking good in this. Daniel Kaluuya, I know that's probably not it, but whatever. He's great. He was a guy that was in Get Out. But yeah, Keke Palmer was great. And once they kick in what the actual thing is, there's some really, really great sound design and a lot of love that's put towards, the crews, the people that worked hard on film. You can tell Jordan Peele had a lot of respect and still has a lot of respect for people that make films happen that don't get that recognition. And also, it's just a well-rounded, tremendous horror movie that goes in a different direction. And I'm like, all right. That's why it was my number 1 movie of 2022, because it really surprised me. In fact, I need to go watch it again. But we go to number 7. I'm a star. Yeah, Pearl. That 6 or 7 minute monologue that she does, where she's just talking to the stepsister about all the events that have unfolded, is still one of the finest pieces of acting that I've seen, not just in a horror movie, but in a movie in a while. And just the realization on the sister's face, but just the realization with Mia Goth and just how messed up she is. But also just before that, you had some great bloody imagery. You had some great moments of just Mia Goth realizing that, yeah, she is messed up, but she wants to make her life the way she wants to make it, and it doesn't end up working out all that great, as we saw in X. But I thought Pearl was better. It was better acted. That's nothing against X. I'm not saying I went to X for the acting. But I just thought Pearl was a more well-rounded story. And fun fact, they actually did both of these seemingly back-to-back during the pandemic. I want to say they were in New Zealand. And Mia Goth even got a writing credit and I believe a producing credit for this. And I'm glad that Mia Goth's name was cleared after that bullshit that was alleged on the Maxine set. Maxine's not here, by the way, because even though Maxine was pretty good, I think that it was a bit of a letdown compared to X and Pearl. But Pearl, so goddamn good, so great. Impossible to ignore the tremendous, work of that, at least in my opinion. But now we get to number 6, Strange Darling, the weirdest and most, visceral cat and mouse game that you have seen in a while. With twists and craziness. And it's great. It's fucking great. Check it out. I'm not going to spoil it because it is more recent. And some people have not seen it. I believe it's on Shudder. If it's not on Shudder, it's on Amazon to rent. But it is something that, you can check out. But, whoo boy, I wasn't sure what to think. And the sound design and the way it was shot. I believe it was shot by Giovanni Ribisi. Or Ribisi. However you say that. He did great stuff here. But, it was just basically 2 people with a couple peripheral characters that got involved. But tremendous stuff. Absolutely fucking tremendous. Bloody and violent and went places I didn't expect. So, let's get to number 5. Talk to me. Talk to the hand because the dead are listening. That really should have been the title. I don't know why they're doing Talk to Me 2, though, because I'm like, okay, I don't know if it needed a sequel, but Talk to Me is great. Really fucking great. Sophie Wilde was tremendous. It is another one of, like, evil following you and stuff like that. And I don't think the ending is necessarily as shocking as some other people have said, even the people that I fucking respect. But I thought Talk to Me was so fucking good because it starts with a great opening. A guy that's trying to get his brother, and then his brother kind of goes nuts. And I'm thinking, I'll set the tone for, we're just going to keep up with this. And the fact that the evil entity is just working on Sophie Wilde, who's tremendous, and I really, really hope gets more big role offers off of this, because I'm not saying she had to carry the movie because there were other roles that helped prop it up. Even the young lad that played the boy that is kind of seen as her little brother. And that's an overlying story with this, but it's really fucking good. Very Australian, by the way. Very Australian. But the Philippou brothers that were on YouTube, I assume still are, wanted to make it their way. And another A24 offering. Great decade for A24. Speaking of which, number 4, I Saw the TV Glow. Justice Smith and Judy Lynn Payne. God damn it, I fucking screwed that up. London Payne. Something London Payne. God damn it, fuck. So many movies, and I tend to fucking get the goddamn thing wrong. Basically, Miss Payne is in the, is like the central character along with Justice Smith, and it's about gender identity. It's from Jane Shunenbaum, who is really good as a director. They're doing great. Even if I didn't care for We're All Going to the World's Fair, I thought they at least had some good ideas. I Saw TV Glow, though, as a prime example of A24 letting somebody flex their vision while not going way too nuts on the budget. The budget was like $8 to $10 million. A great inclusion of music, the lighting, the mood. Justice Smith acting his fucking ass off here, including that birthday party scene where the realization has come in about his life. It is, and the theme of There Is Still Time. Whew, I Saw TV Glow is very good. Also, Fred Durst was in it. One of 2 movies Fred Durst was in. This and Y2K. And number 3, The Lodge. I'll tell you why The Lodge is so goddamn high. Because the opening and the ending still stick with me to this very fucking day. There are 2 kids that basically try to drive the woman that their dad met after the death of their mother completely mad, not realizing they picked with the wrong fucking woman. That's about all I'm going to say right there. But the isolation, the tremendous performances, and just some of these shots will hang with me. Alicia Silverstone was even in this. Not for very long, sorry, spoiler. But oh boy, The Lodge. The Lodge is so fucking good. Really fucking good. I really can't praise it enough. Let's get to When Evil Lurks. See, this is the one that sticks with me. It was between this and number 1. It kicks in, it doesn't let up. It's about a demonically infected person that just goes, whoa. Just goes absolutely, it is something that is going to swallow this particular area whole, and nobody can escape it, no matter how hard they try. There are things to look out for, but you can't escape it. It is that feeling of visceral insanity, and it builds and it builds. I'll never walk by somebody holding something on the street, like if they're just walking by holding a bag or whatever. I'll never drive by them the same way again. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. And it's scary, and it's eerie, and it's jarring, and that ending of just the realization of what has happened. Speaking of which, number 1, The Substance. Demi Moore giving the performance of her life as I'm recording this. If she does not win the Golden Globe, and if she gets nominated the Oscar for Best Actress, it is a crime. Margaret Qualley is great. Dennis Quaid is a creepy guy. In real life, also, tremendous performances. Coralie Farjah with visceral imagery, the insane beauty standards that women face. The fact that The Substance was so fucking good and is indicative of what you can do with horror when you allow somebody to show their vision, an original horror with familiar elements, but an original vision. It is so fucking good that The Substance is my favorite. and is just so well balanced and so insane, and I'm gonna probably go watch it again after I watch 2 other movies later today. That being said, The Substance is #1, my favorite horror movie of the decade so far. What are yours? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.